So two really big things are happening in Canada right now. The fact that the tariffs got completely paused for the next 90 days between America and China has a pretty huge impact here in Canada. A lot of Canadian businesses import stuff from China, and they were going to have to pay an increase in those prices, 100% or whatever the heck it was. But now that it's all kind of been paused, that, alleviates a lot of financial burden on Canadians and Canadian businesses and consumers. So that's good, at least for the next 90 days, that's good. The second big thing that's happening in Canada is the announcement and selection of Mark Carney's cabinet. When Justin Trudeau decided to resign and brought in Mark Carney, he got to reshuffle a cabinet. It was just temporary. But now that he's won this election, which is still being counted to this day, kind of weird about that. But now that he's won the election, he gets to pick his more permanent cabinet. And this is where you're going to see a lot of controversy. And this is, to be honest, going to make or break the Liberals, in my opinion. Things like Chrystia Freeland. Now, the media, CTV, reported yesterday that Chrystia Freeland was going to be part of Mark Carney's cabinet, and then they retracted that statement because that was bad sources. So it doesn't seem like Chrystia Freeland is going to be part of Mark Carney's cabinet, which I can't help but smile at. But it's important, not just to satisfy me and to put a smile on your face, but it's important for if you're voting for the Liberals or rooting for the Liberals, it's important for their own intra-party dynamics, because Justin Trudeau was a piss poor leader, and he brought this country to its knees with this progressive overload. A lot of the MPs, whether they were just faking it till they make it, whether they were going along with it because they just had to, or whether they actually believed it, a lot of those people are still there and still part of Mark Carney's cabinet or candidates to be part of Mark Carney's cabinet. And so right now, I hate to admit it, but the Liberals are at an impasse of repeating previous mistakes and going down that progressive road with bringing on a lot of familiar faces, which has been proven not to work. But the flip side of that is they have an opportunity, and I think Carney's already committed to like 50% of the cabinet is going to be all new faces. Yes, they're Liberals. Yes, they're still progressive. Yes, I don't agree with them, but we're just laying out the facts here. There's a real potential that the Liberals are going to basically merge themselves into conservatism over the next 4 years, because that's really what worked. It worked during the election. It worked against Justin Trudeau. And you see a rise in demand here in this country for conservatism, conservative values. Heck, you're seeing Carney already implemented. A lot of things that Carney campaigned on were literally, he was just grabbing at the policies that Pierre Poilievre has been saying, such as intra-provincial trade barriers. That's something that Pierre's been saying for years. And you know how easy it was for the Liberal government to do that? That easy. In case you missed it, that's how easy it was for them to break down intra-provincial trade barriers. Sorry for the overdramatics, but that's quite literally the truth. In fact, in British Columbia, David Eby has already said, we're going to start hiring more nurses and healthcare professionals from America. Even though David Eby was basically saying, screw you, America. And so was Mark Carney. In fact, Mark Carney is now committing, as per his platform, to break down all intra-provincial trade barriers for goods and services by Canada Day. And when I saw that clip yesterday, and it's in my video, feel free to go back, my immediate reaction was, oh, well, that's good. But is it? I mean, yes, it is good. But what's changed? A new leader. That's basically it. And that's how easy it is for these people to do it. They don't even need Parliament to be rebooted. They can just do it. And they've had the ability to do this all the time. And that's the messaging that Pierre Poilievre tried to get across to Canadians leading up to the election is the Liberals can fix all of this. They can wipe out the carbon tax. They can break down inter-provincial trade barriers, but they're not doing it because they think that going down that route is going to get them more votes. It turns out, no, people want this country to be fixed. So Liberals campaigned on the country isn't broken. Conservatives campaigned on the country is broken. Yet we're seeing immediate results or immediate actions being taken to prove that the country was indeed broken. And so if the Liberals can change their brand and fix all of this, it's going to be good for the Liberals, but also good for the country. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a kind of a confusing intro. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. I, much like yourself, probably wish that Pierre Poilievre won, right? The country, though, it seems like we're going to be doing all those things that Pierre wanted to do, at least 85% of it, which is good, but it poses a bit of an obstacle for the Conservatives moving forward, because if all of these things are actually getting done, what is the opposition really going to debate on? But we're not going to be talking about that or even Pierre in this video. We're going to be talking about the tariffs with China and what that means for Canadians. And then we're going to be taking a look at the potential outcomes of this new caucus update. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
And how are you feeling right now about this deal?
Yeah, well, it's better. We're not out of the woods. We still have a tariff from Trump's first office, 7.5%. Then we were hit when he came into office with another 20. And now we have the last one sitting at an additional 10. And when I was speaking to our freight forwarder, they were saying it's really hasn't been, it's only been on like Truth Social, and she doesn't have the word from, customs in the U.S.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I got today.
Yeah, well,
where we're at now, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but the thing that's really nice about having you in here is that, you run a company that's actually dealing with this stuff. So, we can hear the news from Washington. We can hear what's been posted on Truth Social, but you can only go by what you actually know and what your, broker is telling you in terms of moving product in there. Okay, so you have product that's manufactured in China that you then bring into Canada to go into the States?
Directly into the LA port, and that it's received and shipped to our third-party warehouse, and then we distribute across the United States.
Okay, so when Donald Trump announced huge tariffs, I've lost track of the number, it was 130% or something like that?
Yeah.
So at that point, what did you do?
Well, we dodged that bullet. We had all of our goods already in the port and cleared. So we just missed that. I do know other small independent brands are faced that. My understanding is some people just put their stuff in storage waiting for this day because it'd be cheaper to pay for the storage, than to clear the goods.
So now we have this time period, it appears, if it works out this way, where there's still tariffs in place, as you said, but not 130%.
Yeah.
And so what's your next step going to be?
To race everything in before the next 90 days.
Okay, and so what does that mean in terms of is there a ship on the Pacific right now with your goods on it?
No, we're very seasonal, so we start shipping our next season. It'll start shipping July, August, and September. So it's about getting all those goods in before the August, because 90 days, where does that put us?
Yeah, I don't
August
even know.
12th.
Yeah, August. Yeah. So, wow, that is a huge deadline.
And you don't know, come August 12th, where we're going to be at after that. It could be cheaper. So, it's really hard to plan a business when somebody's moving the goalpost daily.
So let me ask you, how do you run a business in this environment?
You don't sleep very well.
Yeah.
We've just held our prices to wait until things calm down. We kind of figured that there would be some changes. We didn't know what, but we didn't want to be a business that would be changing our prices daily to the U.S. We're going to try to hold what we can. We'll probably take some financial hits on the U.S. just to maintain business. They're already nervous. Our fall, winter orders were already pretty conservative. Everybody's nervous.
I would love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about the tariffs between America and China really cooling down for the next 90 days, and if you think that this is good. Personally, I do. I think this is phenomenal. I think we're going to see more of an economic growth. You're already seeing the stock market kind of take a upward trajectory, which is phenomenal. And if we continue down this route, we could see new all-time highs, more money into the economy, more job growth. That's incredible. Now let's take a look at something that's not really that incredible. The impasse that the Liberals are facing, specifically with their caucus. Here we go.
Tight-lipped compared to some things we've seen in the past. We know a cabinet smaller than 30, but with a group of up to 10 secretaries of state who have sort of a junior cabinet rank, privy councillors who can go to meetings. What else do we know about we're going to see tomorrow?
Yeah, so first he's creating those two groups. So the second group, the ministers or secretaries of state, will not be part of all cabinet meetings. So he's creating two categories there. I'm going to be watching gender parity. So is there gender parity in the core of ministers, or we count the ministers of state in the lot? I'm told big change coming tomorrow. It's going to be pretty sweeping. They want to even mark even more the cut with the Trudeau era, the Trudeau government. A lot of new faces, more than half of the new faces that will be at Rideau Hall tomorrow. Half of the fifth, at least half, will be new faces. Exactly. So that's pretty big change. So I guess there might be some ministers who were there under Justin Trudeau might be a bit nervous. Who will be sidestepped or not? It's going to be quite interesting to see. But already there's some names circulating, especially in Quebec. What I'm watching, David, there's some familiar names. Of course, of those new faces, Nathalie Provost, who is a survivor of the Polytechnic drama, the Polytechnic massacre. Joël Lightbound, who is from the Quebec region. They need a minister in the Quebec region. And Jean-Yves Duclos was put aside in the last
former
shuffle.
Quebec lieutenant.
Exactly.
Right?
So now they need to send a signal. And that's what we're hearing, that Joël Lightbound. And he was seen at the Ottawa rail station today by our colleague Rafi Boudjikanian. That could be a sign. I'm going to be watching for Carlos Letao, who is the former finance minister in Quebec. Marjorie Michel, former PMO advisor to the former prime minister, who knows very well the machine of government. And also Mandy Galmatzi, who is a former Cree Grand Chief in Quebec. So these are the names that I would be watching in the province.
It's interesting, though, Louis, you go through it. We've got this list of 25 ministers who were a part of the initial Mark Carney cabinet after he won the leadership. I get to 7 or 8 names that I'm confident are still in cabinet. There's 15 or so, I don't know. And some of those, I'm pretty confident, are out of cabinet. Like, there is going to be a lot of familiar faces here in Ottawa, political names. Maybe people have held reasonably senior cabinet posts, just not part of the inner circle going forward here. It's a whole new world in terms of what Prime Minister Carney wants and who he feels he owes things to.
And he says he wants a more focused cabinet. He wants a smaller cabinet. So with less than 30 in the core, that's the signal he's trying to send there. What I'm going to be watching to is for this big trio, Mélanie Joly, Dominique Leblanc, David McGuinty, but maybe I can say Quatuor with François-Philippe Champagne too.
Right.
So there was the 3 ministers involved with the U.S.-Canada relations, Joly, Leblanc, McGuinty. I do not see these guys going away while they were sitting in the White House last week. That would maybe send a strange signal if they want to keep stability there. But, we'll see. What we're hearing is that there are no big changes there. He was asked last week, the Prime Minister, if he wanted to keep François-Philippe Champagne, and his answer was, did he ask you to ask the question? So that's going to be interesting. Also, I think François-Philippe Champagne did not jump in the race at the time to become the leader of the party. Probably was promised.
So he may stay and find
out. Yeah, so how could you put him aside? It could be pretty tough to do.
So to me, it seems like Justin Trudeau's last 6 or 12 months of being in office was to achieve one goal: ruin the country as much as he possibly could. And he achieved that. I mean, there's probably more room to ruin the country, but he did a great job at tearing us apart and really kind of killing Canada from the inside. A lot of the people that followed him agreed on that type of behavior. And I think that this is not to get into like a conspiracy, but I think that this was part of the plan all along. Trudeau to go down as one of the worst prime ministers in Canadian history, purposely so that his replacement could come in and wave a magic wand and suddenly fix all of those problems. And that's kind of where Stockholm Syndrome comes in. And I've fallen victim to that because I've seen and heard, much like you have, a lot of the things that Carney is not only proposing, but already committed to do. And it's like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. Intra-provincial trade barriers done that quickly when they could have done that all along. It's kind of weird. And so when you talk about other MPs running as leader for the Liberal Party, I just don't see anyone else doing it. I think Carney has it in the bag for the next 4 years, and the Conservatives have a big uphill battle to rebrand themselves and to win more hearts over and more votes over in the next election. Now let's take a look at the next clip.
You know, I think that it's being spun that there's going to be a lot of new faces. And now that we have members in every province, you can hope to see, and I would expect to see, someone represented from each region of the country and each province of the country. I'm really looking to see, you know, the gender balance, and Louis mentioned this as well. And is that gender balance at the senior level of the main cabinet?
Yeah.
Or is it just kind of plugging holes with these secretaries of state?
Yeah, the gender balance where it really matters and where you can really make a difference. Not minimizing the role of a Secretary of State, but that can't be sort of a pink ghetto, to use that term. You know, David, I wonder what you make of this. The Secretaries of State, I mean, it does increase the size of the ministry and more privy councillors, but lower salaries, cheaper staff. They don't have full departments, and it sort of brings it back to where it had been until the Trudeau cabinet. What do you make of what we're hearing of the broad direction here?
Well, I think it's consistent with Mr. Carney's management style. I mean, he clearly wanted to have, as he did in his first go-around, he had a smaller cabinet right away. He made some choices. You know, a good prime minister has to be a good butcher, as the saying goes. You got to be able to cleave off some of the old wood, the old meat, as it were, and he's not afraid to do that. This is his government. This is his win. He now needs to make it his own. So I think he has that kind of running room to shape it a certain way, but he wants to get some things done. And he doesn't have a lot of time to do things with what's happening with the world economy, the Canada-U.S. relationship. So a smaller core cabinet of folks that are, you know, he gives them some work to do and he gives them latitude and responsibility. But he's also going to recognize, and he seems to, they also need some support. So classically, ministers of state. So this is a bit of a throwback to the traditional model. I think it can work. Obviously, it all depends on the kinds of people that are going in there. But it suggests to me that he's approaching it very deliberately, very seriously, and you know, we'll see tomorrow. I mean, how it all pans out.
Are you surprised by such a clear demarcation from the Trudeau cabinet? Because I know there was this pressure during the campaign to differentiate himself from the previous prime minister and government, but he won. Right? And so do you still need to do that, or is it just you need to give new energy and new life to your inner circle? What do you think, David?
I think he has to run as far away from Justin Trudeau as possible in political terms. I mean, it is his government. He won the election. He won it fair and square, and he won it in part by his own style, his own approach, his policy approach. And he also showed, you know, kind of the approach he was going to take. He did change the size and structure cabinet a little bit. He had some different priorities already. So it's his government. He doesn't owe anything to Justin Trudeau or anybody else. And I think he will take advantage of that. And it's probably the, you know, do it now rather than later.
And that last couple of sentences is truly the scary part for me. He wants to distance himself so far from Justin Trudeau, which honestly isn't that difficult because Trudeau went so freaking far to the left that anyone who is even slightly left of center seems totally normal compared to Justin Trudeau. And I think that you're going to see a lot of pretty extreme changes within cabinet, within the way that even they go about parliamentary business, right? I think that it's going to change up. I don't actually have something to bring to the table in terms of painting a picture. I don't know what this is going to look like. This is all just speculation with the info that we're watching together. But I do think that you're going to start to see some changes. And this could even be something as crazy as Mark Carney not really going to the House to debate Pierre Poilievre. I mean, he wants to distance himself from Justin Trudeau. And part of that distance is separating himself from the absolutely phenomenal wizardry that Pierre Poilievre brings to question period. He doesn't want to be made a fool, even though Pierre is a few weeks away from getting his seat and we're a few weeks away from question period resuming. If I were Mark Carney or his advisor, which I don't want to be giving them advice, but it would be to stay as far away from Pierre Poilievre as possible because Pierre is going to make you look like a fool. And that's partly what I like about Pierre, along with a long list of other things. And I think that, I mean, technically, they don't have to be in Parliament if they're doing other business, but I think you're going to start to see an uptick in other business. Carney's never debated like that. We saw him at the debate, and he in the elections, and he didn't do frankly, that well. I don't think he will do that well. Not against Pierre, not in the House. Pierre owns that House. And so something as drastic as that, or something as simple as that, rather, is going to have a pretty interesting ripple effect on the news cycle in Canada. But again, that's me speculating. I'd love to know what you guys think down below. Let's move on to the next clip.
It seems to me this prime minister needs a very strong economic hand in natural resources, right? It needs to be more of an industrial portfolio than an environmental portfolio without abandoning the environmental side of it. And maybe on infrastructure, industry, housing, other things like that. He needs real strong economic minds in those portfolios, especially with the Western challenges that are coming out of Alberta in particular.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think he needs strong managers. I think that throughout the public service, they're going to build a team that's going to start working in the direction that the prime minister sets. So, I think that part of the change also kind of stems from very much what the prime minister was talking about in terms of what he wants to see done. That's the message to the public service to reorientate yourselves towards that in terms of the advice that's coming forward. I think that it will be important. I don't think that Mark Carney is going to set his budget based on what Danielle Smith or Scott or Mo want to see at all, nor should he. But at the same time, I think that, it sounds like he's bringing a lot of fresh eyes, fresh perspective to some of these portfolios. And, that might be a welcome change just to take the temperature down a little bit and maybe just restart some of these relationships.
But David, on that too, it seems like you want someone who would just full throttle on those departments, right? If you want to speed up project approvals, get a one approval timeline and get things moving to sort of offset the instability coming from the United States, that's what you're going to want in this cabinet in a pretty big way.
Absolutely. He's going to want to have strong ministers who are going to drive things, but he's also going to need to make some adjustments within the public service as well, because over 10, 12 years, things have atrophied a bit. Processes and ways of doing business, ways of looking at things have become settled in there. The system needs a bigger reset than just a change of prime minister, which we're getting, change of government, change of cabinet, which we're getting. We'll also be I think we should be watching to see what happens next, which is usually a deputy minister or senior mandarin shuffle or adjustment that comes in order to align with these kinds of priorities. You get a very strong sense of Mark Carney that he wants to get some things done, and he knows he doesn't have a lot of time to put those kinds of political economic points on the board. So I think we'll get some very interesting sort of clues of that beginning tomorrow.
Okay, just quick final thoughts. Michelle, what's the number one thing you're watching for, either from a portfolio or an issue in the cabinet reveal tomorrow?
I want to see gender parity at the main table, and I'm looking to see if there's women in economic roles as well.
David?
Economic, energy, environment. Being able to manage that through, take the temperature down, keep the country together on that, and then move us forward.
I wonder about the caucus relations part, because it sounds like it's going to be a pretty dramatic change. And, this is what people who've worked on the campaign, people who are still in government are saying. How concerned do you think he is on that when they were not going to win 40 seats until he came along, and then he got like 43% of the vote and had engineered to, in no small part, the biggest political comeback in recent Canadian political history?
He will know a motivated and happy team is a team that can deliver, right? And that's the bottom line. So whether it's through him or his ministers, that relationship is going to be important. If caucus don't feel, and he's also seen what happened in the last prime minister and what happens when caucus is not happy.
Yeah.
He's not going to be, immune to that. So what he will want is also ministers who can handle that. He doesn't want to have to also sit down and babysit or manage everyone's feelings. He wants ministers who can do that job as well, right? It shouldn't just be on him. He has a big job to do, but that is something that I'm sure Lisa will agree, that's all of cabinet's job. To manage your caucus relations. And if the caucus member comes to you with an issue that pertains to their riding or their community, that you answer to that. And that's going to be really important to him.
Okay, Lisa, quick thought on that, and we're going to switch topics. What do you think?
I don't disagree with Vandana about that. I think it's going to be important to pick cabinet ministers with people skills. I think the biggest shock for anyone coming into a cabinet green or coming to political life green is it's not just about running the government. That's actually probably the easiest part of it all. If you're a seasoned executive, what really matters is the people side of it and how you guide your staff who are young and they probably never had a job before in a lot of cases. So it is a learning experience for everybody. Setting up your constituency office, like that is number one. That's the most important thing you can do. Last thing that I would say on this topic, David, is that there's going to be a honeymoon period. When they go home for their summer barbecue, they're probably going to hear nothing but good things from their constituents. Let's see what happens in the fall. And the minute they start grumbling at home, that's when MPs will start grumbling in caucus. But other than that, I think it's pretty clear shot between now and Christmas for them.
And again, that last part is extremely scary. It seems like the Liberals have it in the bag at least until Christmas. And to be honest, I have a hard time sitting here and thinking of what it's going to look like, just trying to predict the future of what it's going to look like in the House of Commons with Parliament. I think we're going to see a media prop up the Liberals like they've never done before. For reasons of monetary gain or others, we can only speculate. But I think that Mark Carney's now course correction is distancing himself from the overly progressive Justin Trudeau government that clearly didn't work. It got pressure tested and got very much rejected. And now he's coming in and he's going to be going a little bit more to the right, taking ideas from the Conservatives and actually implementing him, leaving the Conservatives yelling into the wind. And from a political strategy, it's very greasy, but it wins. And it's going to be scary moving forward. So I kind of want to pass the question off to you. How do you see this playing out May 26th when they are supposed to go back and sit in Parliament? Do you think that it's going to be business as usual, but instead of Trudeau getting completely destroyed in the House, do you think it's going to be Mark Carney? What are your predictions for Canadian politics in the near future? I'd love to know from you guys down below in the comments. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be super awesome for you guys to smack a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all later on. Bye for now.